In Maine, women are raised to be self-sufficient. We are taught to pump our own gas, change our own tires, and shovel our own snow in the winter. It is little wonder then that Maine has produced a substantial amount of trailblazing women.
But you can see they're like fully intact little oysters with the top shell and the bottom shell. At that size, they are actually fully intact baby oysters. They're fragile, but they're not larval or anything.
In August, VineTime TV had the honor of speaking with Abigail Carroll, owner and founder of Nonesuch Oysters in Scarborough, Maine. Abigail took us on a boat tour of her oyster farm at Pine Point in Scarborough, Maine. And on our tour, we tasted two of her oysters, the Abigail Pearls and Nonesuch Oysters. I brought with us 3 types of wine to taste with her delicious oysters: an organic New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Huya, a Gruner Veltliner from Austria, and a biodynamically produced champagne. 2 of our winemakers were women, of course, because girls rock.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And can you just tell me a little bit about you and how you started with oyster farming?
Sure. My debut in oyster farming was somewhat accidental. I was actually living in France before that, where I grew great affinity for the different terroirs of wine and everything. And then I agreed to write a business plan for an oyster farm when I was home for one summer, and I wound up owning an oyster farm. So I had to sort of figure it all out and pull myself up by my bootstraps, if you will. But it's been an incredible, incredible journey.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so which oysters are we tasting today?
So we basically grow oysters 2 different ways in the farm with 2 really pretty different results. Everything starts in Alphabet City in those bags that you saw. And then, so those are the pearls. The methods keep the oysters in different parts of the water column, and by virtue of being in different parts of the water column, the oysters develop very differently. It is exactly the same as grapes in France. You put a Chardonnay grape on one side of a hill, it makes a Chablis. Absolutely. You put a Chardonnay on the other side, you get a Chardonnay. The Abigail Pearls here we grow on the surface in gear, as you can see over here. Sure. And the Nonesuch oysters are finished on the bottom. Okay. And we have obviously a clear color difference, which reflects some algae that the Nonesuch oysters are picking up on the bottom. The meats from the Nonesuch are meatier. The meats and the pearls are a little more delicate. And the Nonesuch have more earthy flavors, whereas the pearls have a little bit saltier and a little grassier.
Okay, so the first wine that we have is called Huya. It's named after a bird that is extinct in New Zealand. It's made by Mike and Claire Allen. They both were winemakers, and they went to Champagne separately. She learned how to make champagne, and they met there. And in that time, they fell in love, and then they came home, bought some land, and they have been organically producing wine ever since.
Beautiful.
So that'll be the first wine we taste.
That's very light.
Not a bad way to spend Sunday morning.
I like that.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So one thing you will note about the oysters is that they're warm.
That's okay, yeah.
And that's because the water is 75 degrees out there right now.
Sure. That's
and
okay.
So it's you have a bigger, rounder flavor profile, but it's a bit of a shock when you when you chew in. You're like, wait, I'm used to having ice cold oysters. So don't have warm oysters if you're in a restaurant, but on the farm, if you just pull them out of the water, you're good to go.
I know they're fresh and they're all good. And then we were going to have the Paul D. Gruner Veltliner, which is from Austria. It's a very cost-effective, food-friendly wine, great for seafood. I thought it would be really interesting to taste that with the oysters.
Yep.
So this is actually distributed here in Maine by Tabitha Blake. So she's a female wine distributor. She was the first one here in Maine.
Oh, wow.
But the great thing about Gruner is, you get sort of acidity and you get some really nice stone fruit on the nose and a little bit of citrus, but then it has really nice minerality. There's a really, really nice clean minerality that goes down the middle of it. That acidity is perfect for oysters.
It's very bright. It's like almost effervescent a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, slightly frizzante, exactly. This is perfect for oysters.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. They're so briny, which is good. A really good thing.
Well, the tide's coming in too, and it's funny, the the experience you'll have with the oysters will also reflect your own terroir. If you're sitting here in a salty environment, you're breathing that salt, you're living that salt, it's getting on your lips, it's getting in your hair.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. And then we have champagne. And champagne would be the classic pairing with oysters, if you will. And this is a Brut Noir. So it's produced in an area called the Vallée de Sienne, which is in the very far south of Champagne region. And it's been produced biodynamically since the 1970s by the same family. So 4 generations of one family, which is pretty amazing. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's nice. Oh, it's perfect. Not too sweet. There's so many, I love that. Low sugar and
absolutely
good bubbles.
Sure. They're all wonderful with the oysters, but my favorite is the champagne, naturally, which is
beautiful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Necessity is the mother of all invention. Abigail Carroll returned home to Maine from studying in France and saw a gap and need in the marketplace for more oyster farmers. She brought her passion for food to Maine to grow the tastiest oysters that you can imagine. Maine girls rock.
Don't let us down, dudes! Oh, yay!
This has been VineTime TV with Melanie Bolduc.